In the chapter on interaction of electromagnetic wave with matters on macroscopic scale. Today we are going to discuss the boundary conditions for the four field vectors, that is electric displacement D, magnetic induction B, magnetic intensity H, and electric field E. Actually, in this lecture we will discuss the boundary conditions for only two electrodynamic vectors, and these vectors are electric displacement D and the magnetic induction B. So first of all, let us start. What is boundary condition for the electric displacement D? The condition may be stated in this manner: the normal component of the electric displacement D is discontinuous. Remember, it is not continuous but discontinuous by an amount equal to the free surface density of charge at the boundary. And mathematically, this condition may be expressed as d1n minus d2n is equal to sigma. Actually here d1n is the normal component of electric displacement in first medium, and d2n is the normal component of electric displacement in second medium, and sigma is the free surface charge density. When you say normal component, what does it mean? Actually it means the component of this field vector normal to the surface of separation of the two media, or the normal to the surface of discontinuity. Now actually we will derive this relation at first and then we will discuss it. For the deduction of this boundary condition for the D vector, let us consider two media separated by a boundary or a surface. In this figure, actually I have shown this surface by this straight line, but this is not a straight line but it is a surface which actually separates two media. The surface above this surface, the medium above this surface is actually the first medium having permittivity epsilon 1, and the medium below this surface is medium 2, which has electric permittivity epsilon 2. In fact, to find or to derive this continuity condition for the electric displacement D, we will start with Maxwell's first equation, because you know Maxwell's first equation relates the electric displacement vector D to the free volume charge density. So let us start it from the Maxwell's first equation. So according to Maxwell's first equation, Maxwell's first equation. In fact, in differential form, what is Maxwell's first equation? You have already discussed it. You know it is divergence of D is equal to rho. Here rho is actually the free volume charge density. Rho equal to free volume charge density. Now, to establish the boundary condition for D vector, let us see this figure. We actually consider a right cylinder, or you can say a pillbox, whose two plane surfaces are in the two different media. I have denoted the surface, first plane surface by S1, which is in medium 1, and the another plane surface S2, which is in medium 2. And height of this right cylinder or this Gaussian pillbox is h. I have assumed it. In fact, whenever we will convert the condition into boundary condition, then we will consider that this H tends to 0, so that these surfaces S1 and S2 will be just at the boundary. But before that, I am considering that these surfaces S1 and S2 are lying in the first medium and in the second medium, and they are parallel to the surface of separation. And we consider that the area of the plane surfaces is actually each is equal to delta S. Now we can take the volume integral of this equation 1 for the volume enclosed by this right cylinder or the Gaussian pillbox. So consider a Gaussian pillbox. Gaussian pillbox as shown in the figure. Shown in the figure. And let us take the volume integral of equation 1 for the volume V enclosed by this pillbox. You may say it pillbox or right cylinder. So if we will take volume integral for the volume V enclosed by this pillbox of equation 1, then what will be our result? It will be simply integral over V divergence of d dV, and this equal to integral over V rho dV. Let us say this is equation 2. Now you know we can actually transform the volume integral in LHS of this equation 2 into a normal surface integral by applying Gauss's divergence theorem. So you can see by Gauss divergence theorem, you know what this theorem states actually. This theorem states that integral over V divergence of d dV, this is simply equal to integral over the closed surface S of d dot ds. This is actually the normal surface integral of electric displacement d over the closed surface S. Here actually this closed surface S is what? This is actually the surface of the pillbox or the right cylinder. We have assumed a closed cylinder, in fact formed of 3 surfaces in which there are 2 plane surfaces S1 and S2 and 1 curved surface, that is S3, as you have seen in this figure. So this equation 2 now by the use of Gauss's divergence theorem may be written as, you can replace this volume integral into the surface integral defined here. So equation 2 now becomes, what will be this equation 2 now? You can see this will be surface integral over the closed surface S of d dot ds, and this will be equal to integral over V rho dV. Now you can see in this figure that the closed surface S is actually formed of three surfaces, in which this S1 is a plane surface, S2 is another plane surface, and this S3 is actually a curved surface. Since the closed surface is made up of three surfaces, so the integral for this closed surface S in LHS of equation 3 may be written as the sum of the integral of d dot ds for all these three surfaces. So we can write equation 3 may be written as may be written as this may be written as integral over S1 d dot ds plus integral over S2 d dot ds plus integral over S3 d dot ds. This is in fact instead of integral over the closed surface S of d dot ds, and this will be equal to integral over V rho dV. Now if we choose the area of the surfaces S1 and S2 small enough, then we can assume that d is nearly constant over the faces, and so that to a good approximation this equation 4, let us say this is equation 4, actually reduces to what? You can see the figure, and from that figure we can see what will then this equation 2, this equation 4 will become. So under this condition which I have mentioned here, this equation 4 may be written as, so in case of very small base area, let us say delta S. This delta S is area of both of the plane surfaces, and this is very small, or you may say this delta S is just tending towards 0. So in this condition actually this electric displacement will be almost constant. So D will be in fact constant in this condition, and hence equation 4 may be written as you can see actually the electric displacement d1 in the first medium makes an angle theta 1 with this normal, and the electric displacement d2 actually makes this angle theta 2 with this normal, and so you can see what will be the first integral when d is actually constant. So in fact in this condition d dot ds may be written as, d is actually in this condition d1, so this will be integral d1 cos theta 1 ds for the surface S1, and plus integral over S2, this will be d2 cos pi minus theta 2. because angle between the elementary area vector and the electric displacement d2 will be not theta 2, but that will be pi minus theta 2. You can see this figure, and ds, and plus I am writing the third integral at is, this is in fact d dot ds. I have not changed it, and this is equal to integral rho, and this dv will be actually equal to what? We can write it as ds into h, into h. This will be dv. Now we have seen that when we consider that the area of the base is very small, then this d1 and d2 are constant, and so we can write this as outside of this integral. But again you can see this d1 cos theta 1 is actually what? You can see this figure. This d1 cos theta 1 is actually the component of this d1 vector in the direction of this normal, and this minus d2 cos theta 2, this is component of d2 and in direction normal to this surface but in downward direction, so here is minus sign. So this d1 cos theta 1 is written as d1n, and integral over ds, and d2 cos pi minus theta 2, this will be in fact minus d2n, and integral over ds, integral of ds over s2, and plus you can see this third integral is what? This is actually the flux of electric displacement over the surface S3. S3 is actually the curved surface of this right cylinder. So I am writing it in this manner. This is flux of electric displacement D over the wall of the cylinder or curved surface of the cylinder. So I am writing it as phi d of wall, and this is equal to here rho h integral over ds, and so you can see here actually this will be either S1 or S2, S1 or S2. Now we have assumed that the area of the base of the cylinder is very small, and that is delta S. So integral of this ds over S1 or S2 or S1 or S2, that will be simply delta S. So we will write it as d1n into delta S minus d2n into delta S plus flux of electric displacement D over the wall, this is phi d of W, and this is equal to rho h into delta S, and this equation may be written as, let us take this delta S as a common factor, this will be d1n minus d2n plus phi d of W, and this is rho h into delta S. Now let us say this is equation 5. Now we have to know the boundary condition, but here in accordance with our assumption, the first plane surface S1 of the right cylinder is in first medium and the second surface S2 is in second medium, but both of these surfaces should be at the boundary if we want to know the boundary condition, and you know, if we take a limiting condition that the height of the cylinder is negligibly small, actually in that condition both of these surfaces will lie at the boundary separating the two media. So actually we will take a boundary condition that h tends to 0, so that this equation will be converted into the boundary condition. And you know, when we take h tends to 0, it means height of the cylinder is just 0. Then actually this flux phi of d through the wall will actually become 0. So taking the limiting condition, h tending to 0. As you know, when h will tend to 0, then these surfaces S1 and S2 will come to the boundary, and then our equation 5 will give actually the boundary condition. So we take the limiting condition h tends to 0. Then in fact when h tends to 0, then flux of d through the wall will also tend to 0. So now let us impose this boundary condition to equation 5. So imposing this limiting condition, on equation 5. Actually this will be d1n minus d2n into delta s plus limit h tends to 0 phi of d through the wall w. This will be actually equal to delta s limit h tends to 0 rho h. And you know, in this limiting condition actually the contribution to the surface integral by the wall is actually 0, or you can say the flux through the wall of electric displacement d will be 0. So we may write this as d1n minus d2n into delta s is equal to delta s into sigma. See here, when actually h tends to 0, then this cylinder, which is a three-dimensional object, will now become just a surface, and so this volume charge density will now become the surface charge density. So you can say that limit h tends to 0, rho h is actually equal to sigma. And so you can see this delta s will cancel out, and we will have the result d1n minus d2n is equal to sigma. And as you have seen earlier, that this is the boundary condition which is actually satisfied by the electric displacement vector d. And you can see actually this electric displacement d is not continuous at the boundary, but it is discontinuous by an amount which is equal to the free surface charge density. So this is in this way we have proved, or we have deduced, the boundary condition for the electric displacement d. Now actually we will see the boundary condition followed by the magnetic induction P. So for B, what is the boundary condition? We will now see. Actually the normal component of magnetic induction B is in fact continuous at the discontinuity, or the surface of discontinuity. So you can state it in this way: the normal component component of the magnetic induction B is continuous across a surface of discontinuity. And mathematically we may write it in this way. This is B1n minus B2n equal to 0. So you can see the difference. Actually, the normal component of electric displacement D is not continuous across a surface of discontinuity, but it is discontinuous by an amount which is equal to sigma. But the normal component of magnetic induction B is actually continuous across a surface of discontinuity. So we say that B1n minus B2n is 0, or you can say that B1n is equal to B2n. In both of the media, the normal component of magnetic induction are same. Now actually we will see the deduction of this boundary condition at first. You know, the second Maxwell equation actually defines the divergence of magnetic induction B. So starting with Maxwell's second equation, we can actually derive this boundary condition for the magnetic induction B. So according to Maxwell's second equation, you know what is Maxwell's second equation? It is actually divergence of B is equal to 0. So you can see this equation is same as that of the Maxwell's first equation. The only difference is that divergence of D is a non-zero, but divergence of B is 0. So as the form of these two equations are same, so we will follow actually all the steps identical as I have followed in the previous case. So again, let us consider just a right cylinder whose plane surfaces lie in the two media, and those two media are actually separated by a boundary which I have shown here by this straight line, but again I am saying that this is not a straight line, but it is a surface, and the medium above this boundary, let us say, is medium 1, having the electrical permittivity epsilon 1, and medium below it is medium 2, having permittivity epsilon 2. Now this circular cap of this right cylinder or the Gaussian pillbox, let us say, is S1, and this is in fact S2, and the cylinder has a height of h. I am just assuming it, and we call this curved surface of the cylinder as S3. Now just like previous case, let us consider the magnetic induction in first medium is B1, and it makes an angle theta 1 to this normal. This is actually a normal to the surface of separation. I have assumed here a unit vector n hat, which is along this normal, or you can say this is unit normal. And the magnetic induction in the second medium, let us say, is B2, and this angle is theta 2. I am assuming it. So we have just assumed a Gaussian pillbox or a right cylinder, just as we have considered in first case, because we know the form of Maxwell's first and second equations are exactly same, and hence we will follow all the steps same as we have followed in the case of electric displacement D. So after assuming this right cylinder or the Gaussian pillbox, now let us take the volume integral of this equation 1 for the volume V enclosed by this closed cylinder or this right closed cylinder. So taking the volume integral of equation 1 over the volume V enclosed by the Gaussian pillbox. So what will be our result? You can see this will be integral over V divergence of B, and this is actually rho, actually 0 dV integral over V, and this will be simply 0. So you can see the divergence of B, integral over V of divergence B, in fact here will be dV, this is actually 0. Now according to Gauss's divergence theorem, we can transform this volume integral in LHS of equation 2 into the normal surface integral. So let us change it or convert it in normal surface integral. So using Gauss's divergence theorem, we have integral over V divergence B dV. What will be this? This will be integral over the closed surface S B dot ds. In fact, here S is the closed surface of the pillbox, which is actually made up of three surfaces, two plane surfaces S1 and S2 and one curved surface S3. And therefore, this equation 2 can now be written as integral over the closed surface S B dot ds is equal to 0. Now you know, since this closed surface S is made up of three surfaces which are S1, S2 and S3, so this integral in LHS of equation 3 may be expressed as a sum of the integral of B dot ds for these three surfaces, or you can say that actually this B dot ds integral over the closed surface S is actually what? This is actually the flux of magnetic induction B over the closed surface S, and we know this flux over the closed surface S may be written as fluxage of magnetic induction B through all the three surfaces of this closed surface. So equation 3 may be written as written as, we can write it b integral b dot ds over s1 plus integral over s2 b dot ds plus integral over s3 b dot ds, and this will be actually equal to 0. Now let us say this is equation 4. Now we can see what will be the value of all these three integrals, and for this actually we consider that the plane surfaces, or you can say the base of this right cylinder or peel box, that is this S2 and this S1, are actually very small. Why we assume it very small? Because when we will assume it very small, then actually the magnetic induction B can be taken as constant throughout. And so we assume that the base of this cylinder is very small, and in that condition we will take the magnetic induction be constant. And in this condition you can write this equation, write the first two terms of equation 4 from the figure. You can see what will be the value of those integrals. So let delta S is equal to area of the plane surfaces and this delta S actually tends to 0. When you say delta S tends to 0, what does it mean? It means delta S is very small, so that B is equal to constant. We may take B as constant. In this condition, the first two integrals in the above equation can be written as. So you may write, you have seen that actually in the first medium this magnetic induction B1 makes an angle theta 1 to this normal, and in the second medium this B2 makes an angle theta 2 with this direction. And if we will take the area vector ds for this surface, you can see the angle between the magnetic induction B2 and this ds will be actually pi minus theta 2. So we can write this in this way: B1 cos theta 1. This may be treated as constant, and this is integral over S1 of ds, and plus B2 cos pi minus theta 2 integral of ds over S2. And the third, for the third integral, you can see that is actually the flux of magnetic induction B over the curved surface of the cylinder or wall of the cylinder. So I am writing it in this way: this is phi B through wall, that is flux of magnetic induction B through wall, and this is actually equal to 0. Now you can see we have assumed that the area of the plane surfaces S1 and S2 are actually delta S. So this integral of ds over S1 and integral of ds over S2 both will be actually equal to delta S. And again you can see this B1 cos theta 1. This B1 cos theta 1, you can see from this figure the component of magnetic induction B along this normal is actually what? This is B1 cos theta 1. And so we write it as B1n, this is normal component of the magnetic induction B, that is component of B1 in a direction normal to the surface of separation or this boundary. So this will be B1n into delta S. Now B2 cos pi minus theta 2, this will be minus in fact B2n and delta S plus magnetic flux phi of magnetic induction B through the wall, phi BW, and this will be equal to 0. And we can write it as B1n minus B2n into delta S plus phi BW is equal to 0. What will be the equation number? This is actually equation 5. Now we have to know the boundary condition, but here we have assumed the pillbox in such a way that its first plane surface is lying in the first medium, second plane surface is lying in the second medium, but we have to find or we have to change this equation for the surface, and how this result may be converted for the surface of separation. You can see, if we assume that height of this cylinder H is just tending towards 0, then these both plane surfaces will be just at the boundary. So to get the boundary condition, we have to take a limiting condition H tends to 0. But you know, when H will tend to 0, it means there will be a right cylinder which has no height, and if it has no height, then the flux through the curved surface or the wall will be just 0. So to find the boundary condition, or to convert this equation valid at the boundary, you can say, so to find the boundary condition, we take the limiting condition H tending toward 0. Again, when H tends to 0, then actually phi of B through W will tend to 0. So now let us impose this limiting condition on equation 5. After imposing this limiting condition on equation 5, what will be our result? Therefore, B1n minus B2n times delta S plus limit H tends to 0 phi BW is equal to 0. But you know, limit H tends to 0, flux of magnetic induction B through the wall is actually 0, and so we can write it as B1n minus B2n into delta S, this equals 0, and therefore we have B1n minus B2n is equal to 0. And you have seen this is actually the boundary condition followed by the magnetic induction B. And you can see actually the normal component of magnetic induction B is continuous at the surface of discontinuity. Now actually we will see two important particular or special cases. So particular cases. In first particular case, let us consider that the boundary is between two dielectric media. So, if the boundary is between two dielectric media. Two dielectric media. Actually, when we will consider that the medium in both sides of the boundary are dielectric medium, you know, in case of dielectric medium, actually the free surface charge density becomes 0. So you can say in this condition, due to the absence of free charge, the free surface charge density sigma will tend to 0. And so, if sigma will tend to 0, then our boundary condition for D and B vectors will be what? So, the boundary conditions become, what will be now the boundary condition? Actually, the boundary condition for electric displacement will be now d1n minus d2n equal to 0, and for B vector this will be b1n minus b2n is equal to 0. So now you can see in this particular condition, when actually the media in two sides of the surface of separation are actually dielectric media, in that condition the normal component of electric displacement is also continuous. You can see from here that d1n minus d2n is equal to 0, which implies that d1n is equal to d2n in this situation. So we can see in this particular case the normal component of electric displacement becomes continuous at the boundary. Now let us see the another particular case, and in this another particular case or situation, we consider that the boundary between the boundary is between a dielectric and a perfect conductor. We in fact consider this. So if the boundary is between a perfect conductor and a dielectric. Actually, in this situation, due to the perfect shielding of fields by the conducting medium, actually D2 and B2, that is electric displacement in second medium, that is the conducting medium, and the magnetic induction in conducting medium will be actually 0. So you can say in this situation in this situation, due to the perfect shielding of fields, by the conducting medium, D2 will be 0 and B2 will be also 0. D2 and B2 both will be actually 0 due to the shielding of the fields by the conducting medium, you know it. And so in this condition, what will be the boundary condition? So boundary conditions are, in fact, now you can see this boundary condition. Since D2 is 0, so D2n will be 0, and hence the boundary condition for the electric displacement will be now equal to D1n equal to sigma. And for the magnetic induction B, this will be B1n equal to 0. So these are actually the boundary conditions in case of a perfect conductor and a dielectric medium in the two sides of the boundary. So these are the boundary conditions for the two electric vectors D and B. Actually, we have to discuss the boundary conditions for H and E too. But for your convenience, I have divided this lecture in two parts. Actually, in second part, we will see the boundary conditions for the magnetic intensity H and the electric field E. So we will discuss boundary condition for these two vectors in second lecture.